What would you trade your soul for? $1 billion? Eternal youth. The power to bend the world to your will. Now imagine waking up tomorrow to a global headline. Confirmed. Selling your soul to the devil is real, and anyone can do it. No metaphors, no myths, no strings hidden in ancient texts. Just a terrifying new reality backed by proof. A mysterious entity, intelligent, aware, and undeniably powerful, can and will make you an offer. One wish, one deal, one consequence. All it takes is a signature, and the price is your soul. But here's the twist. People are lining up in droves. Ordinary citizens, celebrities, politicians, even entire corporations. In exchange for power, fame, or instant success, they give up something they can't see, can't feel, but may never get back. And in a world where souls are the new currency, morality becomes a luxury few can afford. Welcome to a hypothetical future where the unthinkable becomes undeniable. Where the devil's contract isn't a campfire story or religious allegory, but a legal reality accessible to anyone, anywhere. In this world, selling your soul is as easy as scanning a QR code. From the moment the first verified deal went public, everything changed. Economies surged, churches split, and an entirely new industry was born overnight. The rich got richer, fast. The desperate saw hope, and the wicked. They saw opportunity. But behind the glittering promises lies a truth far darker than hell itself. In this scenario, we'll explore what happens when humanity is given a choice it was never meant to face. We'll dissect the structure of the soul market, examine the rise of devil-endorsed power brokers, and meet the individuals who made the deal, and those who refused, and a society teeters between ultimate ambition and irreversible damnation. One question remains: is a soul still priceless in a world where everyone has a price? Let's begin where everything changed. The moment humanity realized the devil was real, and so were his deals. It began with whispers, urban legends on obscure message boards, anonymous claims of overnight success that came at a steep, untraceable cost. At first, nobody took it seriously. Why would they? Selling your soul. That was the stuff of horror films and dusty religious warnings. But then came the proof. The first verified case emerged from an unlikely place, a failing tech startup in Estonia. The founder, on the verge of bankruptcy, suddenly launched a product years ahead of its time. Flawless, market-disrupting, seemingly built with knowledge no human could have possessed. When asked how he pulled it off, he simply said, "I made a deal." That interview clip went viral. A few days later, he vanished. Not long after, other stories exploded into the mainstream. A washed-up Hollywood actor lands 3 lead roles in major blockbusters after a 10-year drought. A woman diagnosed with terminal cancer is declared miraculously healed. A 17-year-old high school dropout becomes a trillionaire after founding a biotech empire overnight. Each time, the subject left behind strange documentation, contracts written in untraceable ink, signed in blood, stored in hidden places only found posthumously. The contracts bore a seal no known language could decipher. But when studied by linguistic AIs and ancient language experts, the results were consistent. This soul is claimed, and the turning point, a live broadcast. A renowned scientist, known for her hardline skepticism, stood before the world and publicly stated she had made contact with an entity claiming dominion over human souls. The experiment was repeatable. The entity could communicate, make offers, and deliver. She warned of its intelligence and its cunning. Then she disappeared too. The confirmation wave. Once the evidence could no longer be denied, governments and institutions scrambled to respond. Religious leaders fell into chaos. Some called it blasphemy. Others claimed it was the long-awaited battle for human souls foretold in Scripture. A few embraced it, seeing the devil not as a monster, but as a liberator of human potential. Scientists were divided. Many refused to acknowledge the being as the devil at all. choosing to categorize it as a non-physical intelligence outside known dimensions. Others simply called it what it seemed to be: evil, patient, and interested in humanity for a price. The United Nations declared a global summit to address the phenomenon, but by then it was too late. People were already making deals, not in secret, not in shadows, but publicly, bragging, recording it, glorifying it. Selling your soul had become a statement of ambition, rebellion, desperation, or pride. And the being who never appeared in the same form twice made each deal uniquely personal. For some, it was a seductive voice in a dream. For others, a man in a crimson suit offering a business card in a cafe. One user even claimed it appeared as their dead father, offering a chance to reverse time. Each deal came with the same warning: you get what you ask for, but you lose what you are. And still, people kept signing. The aftermath. Within months, a website popped up, soulexchange.net, run by anonymous developers who claimed they could rate the quality of your soul and connect you with the entity faster. Black market apps followed. Then came influencers flaunting their post-deal lives, claiming it was the ultimate globe. Opposition movements formed too. People pleading for restraint, organizing soul sanctuaries and no-deal zones. But their numbers dwindled fast, because when your neighbor triples their salary, your friend wins the lottery. And your enemy drops dead under mysterious circumstances. The temptation becomes unbearable. Humanity had entered a new phase. Not technological, not spiritual, transactional. And what was once considered the most sacred, untouchable part of being human was now up for sale. Next, we explore what people are selling their souls for, and how a shadow economy of damnation reshaped the world overnight. In the new world of soul transactions, the possibilities were endless, and so were the consequences. Once the process became widespread, society didn't just accept it, it commodified it. It turned out that the devil, or whatever this entity was, didn't just offer a generic wish. No, it customized each deal with disturbing precision. It knew your weaknesses, your fantasies, your deepest regrets. And it never offered more than what you truly craved. Want to become a billionaire overnight? Done, but you might wake up with no sense of joy or empathy. Want to be irresistible to everyone you meet? Granted, but good luck forming a genuine connection ever again. Want to bring back a loved one? Possible. But they might return different. The rules of the game. Despite the chaos, certain mechanics became consistent. The offer was always fair, but twisted. The entity never technically lied, but it was a master of implication, omission, and irony. Ask for power, you'll get it, but maybe through fear, manipulation, or bloodshed. Ask for beauty, you might be worshipped, but never loved. Only one deal per lifetime, you couldn't undo it. No second chances, no upgrades. That made the choice even more brutal and somehow more seductive. The price was always the soul. What happened after death remained unclear. But numerous reports suggested some kind of awareness, even suffering beyond the grave. A few near-death survivors who made deals described seeing chains, fireless burning, or echoes that never end. Still, millions were willing to risk it. Enter the soul brokers. Soon, middlemen emerged, people who didn't make deals themselves but helped others craft efficient transactions. These soul brokers analyzed your goals, helped you word your wish, and took a cut, sometimes in money, sometimes in favors. The most elite even opened physical locations: Inferno Consultants, Lucifer Solutions, the Pact Agency. Here, trained negotiators, often former lawyers, philosophers, or theologians, helped you craft your one perfect sentence. And then came the apps. SoulSwipe lets you browse pre-made wish templates, read customer testimonials, and even track your damnation risk score. Wishcraft offered a drag-and-drop wish builder with tiered bonuses. Like a role-playing game. The higher the cost to your soul, the more powerful the outcome. The terrifying part. The user base skyrocketed into the hundreds of millions within the first year. The boom of a new economy. With so many making deals, entire sectors of the economy transformed. Billion-dollar companies were formed by individuals with infernal backing. Entire industries collapsed overnight when competitors gained supernatural advantages. Stocks were no longer about innovation, they were about rumors of PACs. In politics, the rise of deal candidates shattered democracy. These were individuals open about having sold their souls for charisma, intelligence, or victory. Shockingly, voters didn't care. In fact, many preferred them. At least they're honest became the new motto. Meanwhile, insurance companies began offering soul loss coverage in case the buyer changed their mind. Despite the fact that no refunds existed, it was all part of the illusion of control. Even fashion changed. A trend emerged where those who had sold their souls wore red bands or pentagram pins to signal their status. It became a symbol of success or shame, depending on which side you asked. The fractured public. Society divided into three camps. Dealmakers, ambitious, reckless, often arrogant. They viewed the soul as outdated, an invisible asset with no ROI. Soul purists, devout individuals, or cautious skeptics. They believed the soul was sacred and irreplaceable. Many retreated into isolated communities. The regretful. Those who made deals and realized too late what they'd lost. These people often broke down psychologically or attempted to end their lives. But death only meant facing what they had sold. Edge cases and folklore. A black market soon emerged, offering soul laundering, illegal attempts to break deals. Trick the devil or transfer the cost to someone else. Most of these services were scams, but not all. Some rumors told of loopholes. For example, one man reportedly wished for infinite wealth without consequences and vanished within seconds. Some say he was pulled into a parallel hellscape where he now rules alone, imprisoned by his own wish. Others claim that if you found a way to truly change your heart, your soul could call itself back. But these stories remained unconfirmed, or perhaps too dangerous to verify. One chilling video still circulates online. A teenager makes a deal on livestream, asking to become the most famous person on Earth. 30 seconds later, a nuclear war begins. The footage ends with her whispering, "I didn't mean it like that." Next, we'll dive into how religion, culture, and art shattered and reformed in this twisted new world where salvation and damnation became part of daily life. As the soul trade took root across the world, the impact rippled far beyond individual transactions. It tore at the fabric of belief systems, rewrote the rules of culture, and left entire civilizations grasping for meaning in a world where damnation had become transactional, and salvation uncertain. The Great Religious Collapse. The world's major religions faced an existential crisis overnight. For centuries, religious texts warned about the soul, the devil, and the cost of sin. But now, the devil wasn't a metaphor. He, or it, was real, provable, and responding to requests like a cosmic customer service rep. Vatican scholars were the first to react, convening emergency councils and releasing a statement calling the soul-selling phenomenon an apocalyptic test of faith. Some priests rejected the entity's legitimacy, claiming it was a deceptive alien intelligence or a man-made AI-induced mass delusion. But others acknowledged the chilling truth. Evil had manifested, just not in the form they had expected. Masses stopped attending church. Why confess when your neighbor just sold his soul and now owns 5 yachts? Why pray when deals delivered real results instantly? Mosques, temples, synagogues, and churches worldwide experienced division. New theological sects emerged almost overnight. Some believed the world had entered the end times. Others adapted their teachings to incorporate this new force, offering post-deal absolution services, despite having no power to revoke the contracts. Ironically, some religions gained momentum, especially fringe doomsday cults, which had long predicted an infernal reckoning. Suddenly, they weren't crackpots, they were prophets. One cult, the Scarlet Covenant, claimed to have negotiated with the devil for the salvation of humanity and gained millions of followers. Then came the opposite, the Neo-Luciferian movement. Based in Berlin but quickly spreading worldwide, it positioned the devil not as an evil figure, but as the ultimate liberator. Its followers viewed soul selling as empowerment, self-ownership. It's their slogan. My soul, my terms. What started as religious chaos soon bled into every aspect of life. Cultural shifts, art in the age of the damned. Culture reacted like it always does in times of upheaval, with a creative explosion. Music became darker, more honest, and wildly experimental. Entire albums were rumored to be made under soul packs, creating soundscapes so emotionally overwhelming they were banned from Radio 4, causing psychological breakdowns. In film, a new genre emerged. Post-soul cinema, stories about characters who wrestled with the implications of their deals, or lived in worlds where soul sellers were the elite. Critics called it the new noir, but fans loved it for one reason. It felt real. Literature flourished in disturbing new directions. One best-selling memoir, I Sold My Soul and Got Bored, chronicled a woman's rise from poverty to paradise and her slow, horrifying realization that nothing could make her feel anything anymore. Visual art took on surrealist, infernal themes. Galleries displayed paintings rumored to be co-authored by the entity itself. In one infamous piece, titled Eternal Contract, viewers reportedly heard whispers when standing alone with it. It was later removed after 3 suicides. And fashion. It embraced the aesthetic of the deal. Horned motifs, crimson accents. Designer brands offering soul seller couture with slogans like temptation is power and regret is reversible. The entertainment industry sells out, literally. Hollywood underwent a renaissance of sorts. A-list actors openly admitted they'd sold their souls for stardom. Awards were no longer measures of talent, but of boldness. The more dramatic the deal, the more applause it received. Reality shows emerged with names like Deal or Damnation and The Pact, where contestants competed for the chance to make their one wish on live television. Critics called it grotesque. Sponsors called it the future. Even the music industry saw a return of the so-called 27 Club, musicians dying young after meteoric rises. But now, the pattern wasn't coincidence. Fans speculated which deaths were slated. Some stars even marketed their pact before release day to boost streams. One chilling concert moment stands out in history. A pop idol mid-performance stopped and whispered, "He's here," before collapsing. The show sold out every night after that, for months. Philosophical breakdown. What is the self without a soul? In UNIVE, RSITIES, and cafes, debates raged. What does it mean to be human without a soul? Is the self defined by the body? Is morality even valid if everyone can rewrite the rules? Are dealmakers still people as we understand them? New fields of study arose: infernal ethics, transactional ontology, post-soul identity theory. Books like The Market Value of Morality and Hell is Just the New Heaven filled the shelves. But not everyone was comfortable with this new culture. In pockets of society, rural towns, off-grid communes, war-torn regions, people clung fiercely to old beliefs. To them, dealmakers were traitors. They were walking reminders that humanity had failed a test it never saw coming. Some of these groups formed underground redemption factions. They hunted known dealmakers, hoping to reverse their choices by force. In one harrowing incident, a known celebrity pact holder was kidnapped, tied to a church altar, and forced to pray non-stop for 72 hours. It didn't work, but the footage went viral. The world had become a haunted mirror, reflecting the ugliest parts of desire and the most fragile parts of belief. But beyond art and religion lies something more terrifying: What happens after the deal? Next, we explore the long-term price of power and how the soulless walk among us. For a while, it looked like those who made the deal had won. They were richer, stronger, younger, more beautiful, more successful. The world became theirs. But then, things began to change. Not all at once, slowly, subtly. Like a crack forming beneath polished marble. People started noticing a pattern, an emotional emptiness, an inability to connect, and in some cases, something far worse. The hollowing, the soulless effect. It began as a fringe term used by underground psychologists. Soul deterioration syndrome. Patients who had made deals began reporting strange symptoms. Loss of empathy. Parents unable to feel love for their children. Emotional numbness. Laughing during funerals, weeping during sex. Compulsive risk-seeking. Jumping off buildings just to feel something. Dream distortions. Endless mazes. Voices whispering your name. Doors that never open. Over time, researchers coined a more terrifying term, soulless drift. A progressive dissociation that rendered dealmakers increasingly inhuman, even if their physical bodies remained intact. Some began to exhibit violent behavior. Others simply faded, emotionally, spiritually. Into husks who wandered nightlife scenes or sat motionless in glass towers. Surrounded by everything they'd wished for, yet utterly empty. People whispered about the gray ones, dealmakers so hollow that their presence drained joy from the room. Animals avoided them. Babies screamed in their arms. Mirrors sometimes refused to reflect their image for a split second. The regret epidemic. Then came the exits. Despite their perfect lives, dealmakers started ending things at alarming rates. The message left behind was always the same. It wasn't worth it. But even death wasn't an escape. Footage leaked of a man who shot himself during a live stream only for his corpse to stand up moments later and whisper, "Not yet." Religious leaders claimed his soul was already claimed, and therefore, his body no longer fully his. In response, new social movements formed. The repenters, dealmakers trying to live lives of absolute good, hoping to buy their soul back with karma. The witnesses of fire. Radical evangelicals who believed dealmakers were doomed vessels meant for divine cleansing. The Zero Pact Alliance, a global organization offering incentives. Cash, shelter, community to those who promised never to sell. But despite their efforts, the cultural tide remained seductive. Regret, after all, is a future problem. And most people lived in the now. The rise of the pure class. A new societal division emerged, not based on race, wealth, or nationality, but on whether you still had your soul. Those who hadn't sold became known as the pure. For some, it became a badge of pride. Entire communities arose around maintaining purity, vowed abstainers who refused deals under any circumstances. They formed clean zones where dealmakers were banned. But purity came at a cost. Dealmakers, now the elite class, began enforcing their own hierarchy. Some companies only hired deal holders. Soul sellers could purchase dominance tokens to guarantee promotions or exclusive rights to marry another pact holder. This led to growing unrest. Hate crimes erupted. The pure accused the dealmakers of being monsters in human skin. The dealmakers mocked the pure as moral cowards clinging to outdated ideals. One video from a protest went viral worldwide. A teenager stands in front of a devil-backed CEO's limousine, holding a cardboard sign that reads, "I still have my soul. That's why I'm starving." The comment section was split. Half applauded her courage. Half told her to grow up and get the deal done. Redemption, is it possible? Rumors swirled about those who had somehow gotten their souls back. They were always vague, always unverifiable. But the stories spread like wildfire. A monk in the Himalayas who reversed a pact through 1,000 days of silence. A hacker who found a line of code in the Soul Exchange app that, when recited, caused the devil to rescind the deal. A dying mother who traded her own life for her child's soul, effectively sacrificing herself into eternal torment. But for every redemption story, there were dozens more of people trying and failing. Some attempted self-purification through ritual, isolation, or punishment. Others turned to desperate measures, ingesting ancient relics, burning their possessions, even offering counterdeals to God if he was listening. And yet, no formal redemption method was ever proven. The devil, for its part, remained silent. It made no threats. It honored its end of every bargain. And when asked about regret, it allegedly replied once, "You signed." Regret is simply a form of remembrance. The fracturing of identity. At its core, the real price of power wasn't physical or even emotional. It was existential. What does it mean to be a person if your soul is gone? Are you still you if your decisions are all post-deal influenced? Can a soulless being love, create, heal? Or are you just a vessel, animated by the hollow echo of who you used to be? Philosophers began referring to dealmakers as shells of intention, entities still walking, still deciding but missing the one thing that made them human, the capacity for sacrifice without reward. Now we enter the final and most chilling evolution of this world, a geopolitical landscape shaped by soul dealers, infernal corporations, and a coming war for what's left of humanity's spirit. By the time the world realized the full scope of the soul economy, it was no longer about individuals making private deals. Entire nations were now in the game. Presidents, monarchs, and military leaders, many of whom were quietly confirmed to have made soul pacts, began reshaping policy and diplomacy, not through alliances or trade, but through leverage with the infernal. This was no longer about selling your soul for personal gain. This was about weaponizing damnation. The rise of soul-powered states. The first superpower to cross the line openly was the United Dominion of Carthon, a formerly impoverished nation that, within 5 years, became the world's largest energy producer, technological innovator, and military exporter. Their secret: a pact not made by one man, but collectively through a council of state officials. They sold not only their individual souls, but future generations' souls as collateral. In return, they received near-limitless fusion energy, quantum weapons, global media control, psychic soldiers trained by infernal instructors. Other nations panicked. Many tried to keep up. Some tried to resist. Infernal corporations and devil-backed conglomerates, not far behind. Soul-backed megacorporations emerged as the new empires of the modern world. Asmodex Group dominated biotech with products that reversed aging at the cost of an undefined afterlife clause. Pact Bank offered high-interest loans in exchange for soul fractions, letting desperate individuals mortgage their humanity. Hell Events Entertainment became the leading media empire, producing content so addictive it caused measurable dopamine imbalances in viewers and proudly employed only pact holders. And then there were whispers of deals within deals, companies making contracts with multiple infernal entities, leveraging rival devils for competing clauses. As the market of damnation globalized, traditional currency began to lose meaning. In high society, wealth no longer bought respect. Souls did. The Purity Underground. In response, a powerful global resistance began to grow. Underground movements composed of spiritualists, hackers, rogue monks, and ex-intelligence agents formed the Purity Front, a decentralized network of anti-deal operatives. They engaged in sabotage, soul tracking, and even soul rescue ops, attempting to intercept deals mid-transaction and smuggle individuals into redemption zones. Some factions within the Purity Front turned militant, declaring war against all dealmakers and launching terrorist attacks on devil-endorsed corporate headquarters. Religious militias revived ancient warfare techniques, believing traditional tools, iron, salt, prayer, bloodlines, still held protective power. Whether they worked or not didn't matter. Faith had become a weapon again. The battle wasn't just spiritual, it was digital. A legendary AI called Heaven's Gatekeeper appeared on the dark web. It claimed to reverse engineer soul pacts, scrub the contract from infernal servers, and delay damnation. But it came with a warning. You'll forget the deal, but your life will forget you too. Those who used it reported waking up in alternate lives with no memory of success, but also no memory of what they lost. A true reboot, with the guilt of forgetting haunting them forever. Children born into contracts. Perhaps the most disturbing consequence came with time. Children born to dealmakers. Were they soulless by default? Some were empty-eyed, eerily intelligent, emotionally detached from birth. Others were born normal, but with a ticking clock. Their soul would be claimed at a predetermined age, like a countdown to extinction. Schools had to create entire covenant classrooms where children were raised knowing they were on borrowed time. Governments debated intervention, but who could stop a child's soul from being claimed if the contract had been signed by a parent years ago for a mortgage or medical miracle? Some children rebelled, others embraced it. The youngest influencers online weren't fashion stars or gamers. Kids documenting their soul journeys, sharing what it felt like to prepare for spiritual exploration. One viral quote from a 9-year-old still haunts global memory. "I'm not scared of hell. I was born in its shadow." The final division. As the war escalated, humanity fractured into its final categories. The souled, soul-pact holders, powerful, elite, hollowed. The pure, uncontracted individuals resisting temptation. The corrupted, those trying to undo their deals, walking ghosts caught in spiritual limbo. The born-bound, new generations raised under expired ownership. The battle lines were no longer religious, political, or economic. They were ontological. This was a war for the definition of being. Was humanity still human if its essence could be signed away? Could a species that sold its soul still claim morality, still claim consciousness, still claim hope? And in the shadows of this infernal world, the devil remains silent, watching, waiting, patient as ever. Because if everyone has a price, then eventually everyone sells. But what does this mean for us, the viewers of this hypothetical world? What truths are hidden behind this scenario that may already mirror our own? Let's draw the final conclusion and ask one question that may haunt you forever. In a world where selling your soul becomes real and accessible, we don't just face external consequences. We confront a horrifying internal revelation. What if the soul was never priceless to begin with? This hypothetical future reveals the terrifying ease with which humanity could abandon its spiritual core in exchange for comfort, power, or vanity. When the ultimate transaction becomes normalized, the boundary between human and husk blur. Integrity becomes rebellion. Purity becomes poverty, and regret becomes eternal. But the darkest part of this world isn't the devil's presence. It's how little he needs to intervene. He doesn't force. He doesn't coerce. He simply offers. Because the most chilling truth of all is this: we were always willing. And maybe, just maybe, that's the part that mirrors our reality most. Because while no contracts are signed in blood today, how many times do we compromise who we are for status, wealth, or acceptance? We may not have infernal apps or red seal contracts, but the soul has always been at risk, hasn't it? So before you laugh off this scenario, ask yourself, if the offer came to your inbox tonight, would you open it? And worse, would you click accept? If this video made you think, really think, then you know what to do. Like the video to keep this series alive. Subscribe so you don't miss our next dive into the darkest corners of What If. And comment below. What would tempt you to sell your soul, or would you hold the line no matter what? Because in a world like this, hypothetical or not, the first step to staying human is knowing your price.